My mom begged me to come home for Christmas. I'm Erin Parker, I'm 31. And like a fool, I actually thought maybe, just maybe, this year would be different. She called me in Amsterdam at 4 a.m, sobbing on video chat about, "We never see you anymore," and "The whole family needs you here. Your brother's kids miss their aunt." 12 hours on planes, 2 layovers, a missed connection, a dead phone battery, and I still showed up on her doorstep in Jacksonville with a suitcase full of presents I could barely afford. I was exhausted, smelled like stale airplane coffee, and every muscle in my back was screaming. I rang the doorbell, heart pounding stupidly, picturing her hugging me like she did when I was a kid coming home from sleepaway camp. The door flew open. "No, oh my God. Aber, you're here." "No." "How was your flight?" No hug. Just my mother's eyes flicking straight to my suitcase. "Good, you brought a big one," she said briskly, like this had been the plan all along. "You'll watch your brother's kids. We're heading out first thing tomorrow." My brother Tyler appeared behind her with sunglasses on his head, a gym bag over his shoulder, and his 2 kids climbing all over him. He smirked when he saw me. "Hey, monsters," he told them. "Be nice to Aunt Erin. She's jet-lagged and cranky." Then to me, "Try not to let them burn the place down, yeah?" They all laughed. My parents, my brother, even the 8-year-old, like my entire existence was the punchline. I stood there with plain hair, a credit card balance bloated from holiday flights, and a suitcase full of gifts for children I was apparently supposed to serve as live-in nanny for, while their parents sipped cocktails somewhere warm. I didn't explode. I didn't burst into tears. Something in me just clicked off, like a breaker flipped. I smiled, set my suitcase down in the entryway, looked my mom in the eye, and said one sentence. That was the exact second everything shifted. The laughter died. My dad's face went slack. My mom kept shaking her head, whispering, No, you wouldn't. Not really." By the time I was finished, their dream holiday wasn't going to happen. Their house was no longer safely propped up on my invisible income. And I was finally done being their unpaid childcare, financial plan, and emotional shock absorber. Stay with me, and I'll tell you how one ungrateful daughter wrecked her family's perfect Christmas and walked out with her life back. They froze when I spoke that one sentence. But to really understand why, you need to know what those people in the doorway had been doing to me long before that day. My mom didn't just miss me when she called Amsterdam at 4 a.m. 2 weeks before that call, she had already started sending me screenshots of ridiculous holiday prices on flights and rentals with messages like, "Can you believe this?" And, "Your dad and I could never swing something like this unless we had a little help. Just this once." Just this once was the opening line of every crisis they ever dragged me into. When my dad needed dental work Medicare wouldn't cover, I wired money. When Tyler tanked his credit score on some drop-shipping empire he swore would make him rich, I helped him consolidate his high-interest cards. When the AC died in the middle of a Florida heat wave and the mortgage was technically in arrears, I sent a chunk big enough to cover both. Meanwhile, I live in a tiny walk-up in Amsterdam. I bike to work in the rain, I meal prep, shop discount aisles, skip nights out because I freelance in graphic design and every euro matters. And somehow, from 5,000 miles away, I was paying for DoorDash orders in Florida, 3 different streaming services, a family Amazon account, and a cell phone plan that still had my name on the paperwork. The part that really woke me up, though, came right before my mom's midnight tear show. I was clearing out my inbox one Sunday and saw an email from a U.S. a bank I don't ordinarily use. At first I thought it was spam. Then I saw my name in the subject line next to the word mortgage. At some point a few years earlier, my parents had just put me down as a co-borrower on a refinance to get a better rate. I barely remembered signing anything. It had been slid past me on a visit home, framed as a mere formality. I'd been in my mid-20s, jet-lagged, and too trusting. That email made it sickeningly clear. The house I didn't live in a country I didn't live in, had my credit strapped to it like a hostage. And I hadn't just been helping them in a pinch. I'd been covering shortfalls on a loan I was legally tied to without ever seeing the paperwork. So when my mom was hiccuping into the camera about how the kids keep asking when Aunt Erin is coming, I was sitting on the edge of my cheap IKEA bed in Amsterdam, staring at my banking app and realizing the only time I was part of the family was when a bill landed. I almost told her no. I almost said, "Book your own tickets, look after your own grandkids, figure it out yourselves." Then another thought hit. If they were bold enough to drag me halfway around the world just to use my presence and my bank account, maybe it was finally time I showed them what happened when I stopped quietly playing my role. I booked the flight, but I also booked a call with a financial planner in the UK, downloaded 3 years of bank statements, and used a legal template site to draw up a short, simple acknowledgement document. So when I stood in that Jacksonville entryway, Tyler laughing and my mom rattling off my babysitting duties like a schedule she'd posted on the fridge, I wasn't just the exhausted daughter they remembered. I followed them inside. They drifted toward the kitchen, where a color brochure and a printed itinerary lay on the counter like a promise. Glossy resort photos, flight details, all-inclusive family package in bold. My mom tapped the brochure with a manicured nail. "See," she said brightly, "this is why we needed you here." She smiled at the kids. "You get a whole week with Aunt Erin. We finally get some time to ourselves. You always nag us about self-care." I glanced at the resort name, then at the open email app on her phone, just long enough to recognize the last 4 digits of the card on file. Mine. They thought I'd flown 10 hours to be their built-in childcare and walking credit limit. I had actually come to do something I should have done a long time ago. "Can you all sit down for a few minutes before you head out?" I asked, still calm. "There are a couple of things we need to go through." My mom frowned but herded my dad, my brother, and the kids into the dining room. My dad took his usual spot at the head of the table, chin up like he was chairing a meeting. My mom hovered near the wall, clutching the printed itinerary. Tyler half sat, half slouched, scrolling his phone. The kids chased each other around the chairs. I put my laptop on the table, turned the screen so they could all see, and said, as evenly as I could, "Before anybody goes on any trips, we're going to talk about money." Tyler groaned. "Erin, come on. We're right now?" My mom gave me an injured look. "Sweetheart, we've been so stressed. You just got here. Can we not start a fight?" I opened a spreadsheet labeled Parker Household and started at the top. "Last February," I said, pointing at the first line, "you called because the gas bill was about to be disconnected. I sent $320. In April, the mortgage was 60 days late. I wired $1,450. In July, Tyler's business account went negative and he just needed a short-term bridge. I sent $2,100. In September, the dryer died, $700. In November, Dad's truck needed brakes, $540. Plus small amounts, $200 here, $150 there, for emergencies that always seemed to line up with sales or sports packages or someone's birthday." I scrolled down slowly, highlighting entries with my cursor. Every line was dated, documented, sourced from my account. "Well, this," I added, "doesn't include the recurring things. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, the family phone plan, Prime, the cloud storage, the random $30 to $80 Venmos with notes like, 'for groceries,' that somehow always appeared at the same time as photos of you all out to eat." Tyler straightened, his thumb frozen over his phone screen. He recognized his own. "I'll send it back Friday, promise." Messages, neatly copied into the notes column. My mom's hand drifted from her mouth to the back of a chair when she saw her own. "Just helped, Grandma. Can you float us till payday?" Texts sitting right next to deposits from me, and then, a week later, tagged photos of bottomless mimosas at some brunch spot. My dad's jaw clenched when we hit the row, labeled copay for MRI, followed immediately by a Best Buy receipt for a brand new sound system. "This is not fair," my mom whispered. "You're making us look like users." "I'm not making you look like anything," I said. "I'm showing you what happened." I scrolled to the bottom row and tapped the bold total. "In the last 3 years," I said quietly, "I've sent just over $45,000 into this household." Silence. Tyler's mouth opened and shut. My dad stared at the wall. My mom whispered, "That can't be right," over and over, as if repetition would change the arithmetic. I reached into my backpack and pulled out a short stack of printed pages, slid them onto the table next to their resort packet. "This," I said, "is an acknowledgement. It's not a lawsuit. I'm not dragging you into court. It just says you all recognize that this money was a loan, not a gift. Less, and that you'll start paying it back, even if it's only $50 or $100 at a time when you can." "I had it checked by a lawyer," I added before my dad could object. "It's basic. It's fair. It doesn't even charge interest." He grabbed the top page, scanned it, and his face darkened. "We are family," he said. "You don't slap a contract on family." What, are you going to sue your own parents? Have us locked up because we were struggling? I met his gaze. Family doesn't add their daughter to a mortgage without explaining what that means, I said. Family doesn't use her money for vacations and brunch and then tell everyone she forgot where she came from. My mom flinched. Tyler flipped through a couple of pages, swallowed hard. I can't pay this, he said. None of us can. This is insane. Aaron, I know you can't pay it all tomorrow, I said. I'm not expecting you to, but I'm done living in a story where you three pretend you're broke victims and I'm some selfish expat hoarding my euros while you starve. I let that sit for a second. If you ever go around telling people I abandoned you with nothing, I added, voice steady, I will show them every line of this spreadsheet, every transfer, every bill I covered, every time you picked Starbucks or concert tickets over the light bill because you knew I'd bail you out. My mom shook her head like she could rattle the words loose. You wouldn't, she whispered. You wouldn't humiliate your own family like that. I don't want to, I said. All you have to do is stop lying. Then I clicked to the next tab, the one with the resort confirmation. Their names, the dates, the booking code, the non-refundable note at the bottom. And under payment method, the last 4 digits of my credit card. I pointed to the status line. Confirmed. Canceled. 3 days earlier, from my apartment in Amsterdam, I had called the airline and the resort. Because I was the card holder on file, everything had been refunded as travel credit to my account. So, when I said at the door that I wasn't spending this whole trip as your babysitter while you went on vacation, I said, closing the laptop halfway so I could see all of them, what I meant was, there is no vacation, not anymore, not without me, not on my money, not ever again. My dad lurched to his feet so fast his chair screeched. You had no right, he snapped. Those were our tickets, our reservations. They were purchased with my card, I said. Why, out of my account, with my earnings. That gave me every right. Before he could bark back, I flipped to one more window. The email from the bank with the subject line, Loan Co-Borrower Review. On the screen, right under the bank's logo, it listed Primary Borrowers, Gregory Parker and Aaron Parker. My dad stared like he'd been slapped. My mom's face went sheet white. Aaron, she whispered, don't. We told you that was just paperwork. You knew that was just to help us qualify. It's not real. It's very real, I said. Every time you've missed a payment or been late, that hit my credit too. Every shortfall I covered went to protect an asset that isn't even mine. I hit the call button in the corner of the screen. My financial planner's face appeared in a small video window. Hi, Aaron, she said. Is this still a good time? I turned the laptop so my parents could see. Perfect, I said. You remember the situation with my parents' mortgage? Who is this? My dad demanded. This is the person who explained to me that as a co-borrower, I'm not just doing you a favor. I'm sharing legal responsibility, I said. And that I have options. In calm, clinical language, the planner explained that because my income and credit were tethered to this loan and I wasn't living in or benefiting from the property, I could ask the lender to remove me. That would force the bank to recalculate based only on my parents' finances. If they qualify, the loan continues in their names, she said. If they don't, the bank may require a refinance, a co-signer of their choosing, or in some cases, yes, the sale of the property to settle the debt. My mom shook her head, tears starting in her eyes. You can't do that, she said. We can't move again. We can't afford higher payments. This is our home. That, the planner said gently, is a conversation between you and your lender. Erin isn't obligated to leave her name on a mortgage that is harming her financially while she gets no real benefit. I ended the call, my heart hammering. This, I said, pulling a folded letter from my backpack and placing it on the table, is my written notice to the bank that I'm withdrawing all automatic payments and asking to be released from the loan. They'll be in touch. With you, not me. My mom made a raspy noise. What about the utilities, groceries, the extra year transfer? She asked. So that's how we've been. How are we supposed to? I pulled up one last screen, my autopay list, monthly contributions labeled mortgage top-up, utilities supplement, family phone plan, car payment, internet, food delivery. Every single one had my name next to payer. As of today, I said, hovering my cursor over the cancel buttons, these stop. The light bill, the water, the cable, the phone, those are now your responsibility. in your names, with your income, the way it works for every other adult couple in this country. Tyler looked sick. You could at least give us some time, he said. You can't expect us to adjust overnight. I'm already picking up Uber and DoorDash shifts. I'll work more. Just don't shut everything off at once. You're 35, Ty, I said. You have 2 kids. Yeah, you should have been doing that without paying yourself with my bank account years ago. For a second, the familiar urge, that reflex to smooth things over, to offer one more transfer, one more month, rose in my throat. Then I remembered my mother opening the door earlier and saying, "You'll babysit," like I was the help. I clicked cancel on each autopay. One by one, little green toggles went gray. Confirmation emails pinged my inbox. "This is cruelty," my dad muttered. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm finally stepping out of the role you all wrote for me without asking. What happens with this house, your bills, your lifestyle, that's on you now, not on your daughter in another country." I shut the laptop and stood. My legs felt like rubber, but they held. "If you tell anyone I abandoned you," I added, grabbing the handle of my suitcase, "remember I have every record, every outgoing transfer, every statement, every vacation you booked on my dime. I'm done being the villain in the version of this story you tell to suck sympathy out of other people." I rolled my suitcase toward the front hall. "You wanted a break," I said quietly. "Think of this as a break from pretending I'm your emergency fund." My dad shoved his chair back and jabbed a finger at the door. "You walk out after this stunt, don't bother coming back," he said. "You're not welcome in this house if you're going to hold money over us." My mother grabbed his arm. "Greg, stop. She's just upset. We can talk about this later," she said. But she didn't step in front of the door. She didn't block him or me. Tyler stared at the floor. I paused at the threshold, me every muscle screaming to turn around, apologize, promise to figure something out. Instead, I looked back once. "You're the one who decided my worth here was in what I could pay for," I said. "If I'm not welcome without my wallet open, I was never really welcome at all." Then I stepped out into the humid Florida air and closed the door behind me. No one followed. No one called my name. Inside, I could hear the TV starting up again in the living room, kid voices rising. Somewhere behind that door, someone was realizing their flights and hotel weren't real anymore. I ordered a rideshare and gave the driver an address my family didn't know. Yet. Not my parents' house, my apartment. 6 months earlier, after one too many late-night pleas for a little help and a panic attack over my dwindling savings, yet I'd done something for myself. With the help of a Dutch bank and my dual citizenship, I'd bought a tiny condo in downtown Jacksonville. 1 bedroom, less than 600 square feet, but mine. The down payment had eaten a chunk of what was left after years of propping up 2 households, but signing those papers had felt like coming up for air. The original plan was vague. Move back slowly, keep sending help until I could disentangle things nicely, then slip into my own place when the dust settled. There was nothing nice about what had just happened. The Uber pulled up in front of a modern glass building 15 minutes from my parents' suburban street, but psychologically on a different planet. I punched in my entry code, dragged my suitcase across polished concrete, and rode the elevator up to the 9th floor. The condo was almost bare. A mattress on the floor, a secondhand dresser, a folding table. The smell of new paint still lingered. No framed family photos, no stack of unopened bills. No one sighing in another room about how everything was impossible. Just silence. My silence. I set my suitcase in the middle of the living area and walked over to the big window. The city spread out below. Bridges, lights, the river, traffic. For the first time in years, my phone wasn't buzzing with, "Can you spot us until Friday?" Or, "Card got declined. Can you fix it?" I opened my banking app and went through the list of digital parasites that had followed me from continent to continent. Disney Plus, canceled. Hulu bundle, canceled. Spotify, family, canceled. App Store charges for games my niece had downloaded, canceled. Each button I pressed cut a thread I hadn't realized was strangling me. I made instant coffee in my empty kitchen and sat on the floor, leaning against the bare wall, knees pulled to my chest. The doubts swarmed. What if I'd gone too far? What if they really couldn't keep the roof over their heads without me? What if I had just proven them right? That I was selfish, ungrateful, too good for family? Then I replayed the front door again in my mind. My mother's first words. My brother's joke. The laughter. The knot in my chest tightened and then loosened. Whatever happened next, I wasn't going to be the quiet emergency fund anymore. That night, as I lay on my mattress, staring at the ceiling, the emptiness felt less like a void and more like possibility. They would feel the difference. Their bills would come due. The late fees would be theirs. The vacations would dry up. And for once, their daughter would be okay, even if they weren't. The first sign that the ripple had reached them didn't come from my family directly. It came from my friend Nadia, via text. "Have you seen your dad's FB today?" She attached a screenshot of my father's profile. A long, self-pitying status about how some kids forget who fed them the second they get some fancy overseas job, and how he and my mother had been left with nothing right before Christmas. "Our daughter flew in from Europe and decided her money meant more than her own blood," he'd written. "Please keep us in your prayers." Underneath, the comments poured in. "So awful, Greg. I'm so sorry." "You raised her better than that. Kids these days, no respect. Set up a GoFundMe. We'll share it." He hadn't used my name, but everyone knew who he meant. I paced my little living room, phone in hand, heart racing. Old Aaron wanted to throw on shoes, drive across town, bang on the door and beg him to take it down, or write a novel in the comments with screenshots attached. Instead, I took screenshots for myself. Then I opened my email to my financial planner and updated her on the situation. The post, the years of unreported help, the mortgage I'd been propping up. "Is there anything else I need to do to protect myself?" I asked. Her reply was boring in the best way. Save everything. Keep documenting. Make sure every institution involved had an accurate picture of who had been paying what. Consider whether any of the hardship claims my parents had made in order to get deferments or assistance aligned with reality now that there was a clear record of outside financial support. I didn't need her to spell it out. It wasn't my job to report them to every agency under the sun, but it also wasn't my job to keep burying the truth to protect their reputation while they trashed mine. Over the next few weeks, my mom's texts started to sound a lot more brittle. "We got a letter from the bank. They want updated financials. Did you talk to someone?" The next day, "Why is the electric company sending us notices about full payment? We always had a plan." Because the plan had always been, call Aaron. Utility companies wanted what they were owed. The mortgage lender wanted to know why a co-borrower had stopped paying. Automatic drafts had vanished, and with them, the cushion they'd treated as entitlement for years. Tyler eventually texted and asked to meet somewhere neutral. We ended up at a coffee shop downtown. No kids, no parents. He looked tired. The cockiness was gone. There were bags under his eyes and a frayed baseball cap on his head. He didn't bother with small talk. "Dad needs to shut up on Facebook," he said, wrapping both hands around his paper cup. "He's making us look pathetic. And some of this, the letters, the calls from the bank. You did something, didn't you?" "I didn't play dumb. I stopped making it easy for them to pretend my money didn't exist," I said. "I froze accounts that shouldn't have been opened in my name. I asked questions. If that means institutions are realizing they've been dealing with incomplete information, that's on Mom and Dad." He stared down at his coffee for a long moment, then admitted he'd started taking extra warehouse shifts, had signed up for more delivery app runs, had cut his kid's toy budget to pay off his own overdue cards. "It sucks," he said. "But for the first time, I actually know what groceries cost. Gas, daycare. Before, if it got too tight, Mom would text you. It never really felt real." Meanwhile, signs of my parents' new reality slipped into my feeds. My mom was listing designer handbags and decorative furniture on Marketplace, using captions like "great condition" on items I knew she'd bought with my help. The flashy SUV my dad had been so proud of vanished from photos, replaced by an older sedan. There was a grainy phone picture of Tyler's kid sitting on a small futon in what was clearly a much smaller place than my parents' house. Through it all, my dad kept posting vague laments about betrayal. I muted him. Eventually, I blocked him. He never apologized, never acknowledged the money. In his story, he was still the devoted father abandoned by a greedy daughter, which at some point stopped feeling like my problem. By the time the next December rolled around, the Parker house and my life looked completely different. I heard about their Christmas through the grapevine and the occasional social post. A fake tree in a corner instead of an expensive real one. Fewer gifts under it. My mom in a no-frills cardigan instead of the latest boutique outfit. Hair pulled into a messy bun. I spent my evenings working, reading, hanging out with a couple of friends who didn't see me as a walking miracle solution. Then, one gray afternoon, someone knocked on my door. When I checked the peephole, I froze. My mom stood there in a raincoat, clutching one of those reusable grocery bags to her chest like armor. No dramatic makeup, no big jewelry, just my mother, smaller somehow. I opened the door. She stepped in, looking around my little condo like she'd walked into a stranger's place. "I didn't realize it was like this," she said quietly. "I always pictured you in some big, fancy place. Your dad always said you were living the high life." I gave a small shrug. "This is what I can afford when I'm only paying my own bills," I said. She winced. Then she opened the bag and pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. Not for $45,000, not even for $10,000. Ian, but it wasn't nothing. "I've been selling things," she said quickly. "The nice purse, the coffee table, some jewelry. And I've been picking up extra hours at the clinic. It's not much, but we owed you more than a thanks." I didn't say anything. I just held the piece of paper and let the weight of it sink in. "For what it's worth," she added, her eyes low, "I told your father I can't keep telling his version of the story. Not after those letters, not after seeing that spreadsheet and realizing how much you were doing that we just pretended was normal." She sat gingerly on the edge of my thrift store couch and began to cry. Not loud, weaponized crying. Small, tired tears. "Your father still says you betrayed us," she said. "He tells everyone you picked money over your own parents. But I know that's not all there is to it anymore." I sat beside her, leaving space between us. "I'm not asking you to turn on him," I said. "I'm asking you to stop erasing what actually happened." She nodded, wiping at her face. "Do you think," she said haltingly, "maybe someday we could have you over for Christmas again and it would just be dinner? No secrets, no handouts, just you being there because you want to be?" My throat burned. "Maybe," I said. "If everyone understands I'm not a bank account with legs. If I come, it'll be as your daughter, not your backup plan." She hugged me before she left. Really hugged me, in a way she hadn't since I was a kid. After she was gone, I slid the check into a drawer. I didn't cash it right away. It wasn't about the money, it was about the direction for once being reversed. As for my dad, I let the block stay. His last public word on me was another vague post about some people walking away. That was fine. He could keep talking to an audience that didn't know the numbers. I didn't need to correct him for the internet. I'd already corrected him where it mattered. In my budget, my boundaries, my life. That Christmas Eve, I sat on my own couch, under my own cheap string lights, sipping hot chocolate in a chipped mug, and felt something I'd never associated with the holidays before. Relief. No flights, no babysitting schedule, no spreadsheet open in panic at midnight. Just a quiet night in a small space that was paid for with work I did for myself. Here's what all of this taught me. Family doesn't stop being family because you stop bankrolling them. The people who actually love you will, eventually, readjust to your lines in the sand. The ones who only loved what you did for them will call you selfish the second you stop hemorrhaging time, money, and sanity on their behalf. It hurts. It can feel like tearing your own skin. But sometimes distance is the only way you stop drowning in problems you didn't create. So if the people slowly draining your account also share your last name, you have a choice. You can keep paying for the privilege of being called loyal. Or you can do what I did. Step back, tolerate their anger and their stories, and give yourself permission to be your own first family for the first time in your life.